everyone. My name's Peter Bailey. I am a Great Highland bagpiper. I also play Scottish small pipes, but it's the same, essentially the same instrument, just a little bit of elbow. I am trying something new today. I'm trying to throw together a little tutorial. So thank you for watching and letting me give this a shot. The tune I'm going to cover today is called the Gael. You may be familiar with it already as the sort of basis of the theme for Last of the Mohicans. Movie starring Daniel Day-Lewis came out sometime in the 90s. Good movie. But I'm here to talk about the music. So there's a couple popular bagpipe adaptations of this. I think probably the most popular or prominent one is by the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards. And then I've also heard a version from the Western Australia Police Pipe Band from quite a bit ago. I don't know exactly when that was released. I'll try to find links and include them in the description down here, so you can watch those or listen to those. But these two versions are different, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today, is that in picking up this tune for your own enjoyment, there's no one way to play it. And you can kind of pick and choose what you like from these two variations and mix and match them to your preference and to your skill level as well, because there's a few differences in terms of some of the embellishments that, depending on your skill level, you may or may not be ready for. And part of that is what I want to get to. When I first realized that this was a tune that could be played on the pipes, I tried to learn it as soon as I could, and I started learning it too early. I was not skilled enough yet. I didn't have sort of the correct fundamentals, so I'll go over some of that too. I would love to share sheet music for this, but I can't. It's not in the public domain. There's probably a place or two where you can acquire it. I have not personally done that research. I have picked this up from various sources, a lot of it by ear. Or from watching like the Dragoons play, watching what their fingers are doing. So I'm going to go ahead and get straight into it. But first thing, if in terms of just thinking of prerequisites, you should be able to play a 6/8 rhythm, or at least one of the 4/6/8 rhythms pretty confidently, particularly sort of a GDE. So if you're not at the level in your playing yet where you can kind of easily do something like this, and perhaps even more specifically do a scale, you're probably not quite there to where you can start learning this tune. So go practice that and come back, and then you can work on the tune itself. So the first thing is to just get into the intro. Now the Scots Dragoons play a version that, well, I'll just play a little bit of it first, and then I'll play sort of more of the Western Australia Police version, and you can kind of hear the difference. So Scots Dragoons starts on a D. This is a very simple walk down to a B and then back up, and then to an F, and then a walk down to a D, and then an E, walk down to a C. It's very straightforward. It's not that hard to learn. So here we go. Very, very simple. You can scribble that down on sheet music to help you practice it. One more time. Let me get my fingers a little more visible here. Now, real quick note about rhythm. depending on what version you're hearing this played, what you're what you're listening to or what style you want to go for, you can push and pull the beats of this quite a bit. So, for example, even though I played it the exact same way twice just now, you could change it up. Just to your taste. So now the version of the Western Australia Police Band plays is a bit more kind of like the middle of this swimming melody. If you listen to the orchestral piece that's in the movie, it sort of starts the same, but instead of walking down to a B, well, it does that walk down, but it's a little different. It doesn't stay there. So let me go ahead and play a little bit of that. You'll hear how that goes. Now that's they play that as the intro. There's actually a much longer version of that, but it's roughly that same progression. So you can shorten this and lengthen this as you need to, but I'm going to go ahead and play through the whole thing as Western Australia plays it. There's a lot of long holds, so you'll just have to bear with me, but that's how they play it. So here's the full intro that Western Australia plays. So that kind of brings you up to this sort of it's almost kind of a bridge between the intro and then what you would sort of consider the QuickTime part, the dun da dun da da dun da da dun da da dun. That really kind of driving part of the melody that is so captivating to listen to. I'd have to go back and do another listen. I think this is featured in both versions of the song that these two big pipe bands play. But there is kind of a bridgy bit. It's not too difficult, but I'm going to go ahead and play it, and hopefully just by watching my fingers you can pick it up on your own. Again, I can't share music, but here's how that goes. So going into exiting the intro from the bit I just played, I'm going to do two measures leading into it. Excuse me, starting over. So, and this is it's not that difficult to play. All the the only thing that's really tricky, again, this is if you're going to play it in a band setting. What's tricky is getting some of those changes correct, because some of them you'll choose to play them as 8th note runs or 16th note runs. So, for example, The very first measure. That's with those the sort of the C and the B as 16th notes, but you could play them as eighths. That's kind of up to you. So that would be tough to make sure that you're memorizing correctly if you're going to try and do it in a band context. But as a soloist, play it how the music sort of moves you. All right, so with the intro bridgey bit kind of out of the way, and again, you can kind of mix and match those. Move on to the quick time, the really driving part of the melody. So this has a pretty regular pattern to it. And as I mentioned at the start, it is a very sort of 6/8, right? Dot 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 dot. Now, one thing that's very different between the Royal Scots version and the Western Australia version is that the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards mixes in some variations to that rhythm. They don't stay on that dot 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 for the whole quick time part, whereas the Western Australia Police version does primarily. Although I've seen a recent video where they play it slightly differently, but in the album recording that I've heard, it's that rhythm the whole way through. The variation in the rhythm is a bit more true to the film score, and it is kind of a nice way to break that up. It is kind of challenging to play that rhythm over and over again for something like 12 measures. So, but we're actually going to look at that version first instead of looking at how the rhythm, you can mix it up. We're going to keep the rhythm the same in every single measure. So it starts on a B, and you go up a third. So in this case, a D, bum ba-dum bum ba-dum, and then you walk back down, bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum. Very simple, just G to E grace notes. And I'm doing a G grace note every other place. And then you go down to an A, and you do the exact same progression of notes. You go up a third, and then walk it down. But instead of walking it here, just to do a tap. So one more time, G to E on A, to C, B to C, and then E, back to C, and then do a low G tap. So that measure is that exact same progression of notes twice. So now we've gone from B to A as sort of our root note of where the melody is going. And then next we go to D. Same thing. Now instead of going up a third and walking down, we kind of stay on the D. And then up to an E. So you can see everything kind of stays close to the D in this measure instead of walking around. And that right there, the C, was the one we just did again. So and then we come back to a B, but instead of the first measure again, This is where it changes up a bit. This is probably one of the harder ones to play, but it's yeah. See, so B to a low A, and then up to a D. And then we go, we walk back down to the B, and then up to an F, then to an A, up to a C. So this is how that sounds really slow. Excuse me. Let me get my fingers better in line. Now I'm playing a D grace note when I'm moving from the A up to the C. You don't have to do that. That's a little bit trickier to do. In fact, that's actually historically one of the trickier movements for me to do. But that's the whole QuickTime bit, right? So if I were to play the whole thing, you know, after that last note, which is a B, bum ba dum. That gets to the end of that. So now let's talk about the variation, the way in which this can change up. Now, if you're really familiar with the movie version of this song, you know that the melody, this part of the melody, goes higher than what I just did, and this is much more in line with how the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards plays it. So it starts the same. You start on a B. Now you can play this just as a G to E. However, if you watch how the Dragoons play it, they play a G E low G tap. For me, you can do it either way that you like. But that's one small variation that's really obvious between the two versions. But okay, so whereas previously we went up by a third, now we're going to go up by a fifth all the way to an F. Or again with the tap. And then from there you walk down. Bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum. Now once you get to the C, you don't keep walking down to a B, right? So the C is the last note that you walk down to, and then you go return to the A. So nice and slow. Now in the actual playing of this, on sort of the repeat, the second time, you actually do go to a B there because you're getting ready for the next progression of the melody. So if I were to play that slightly more correctly. And because that's our sort of pickup note into the A that comes next. So now this is the very first part where this version of the tune varies in that 6/8 rhythm, where it doesn't do that. I mean, it's still kind of 6/80, 6/8-ish, but it's not that same dot 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 dot. This is where we start to mix it up. So this whole version of this QuickTime part of the melody relies a bit more on embellishments to drive some of that rhythm than just strictly breaking up the notes in that way. And in this one, it's a burl. So we just come off of the let's do the last two measures. So instead of, we do, and then from there it's the same thing as the other version. And then keeping it going. Now they don't repeat the burl. In this measure, it is essentially, in thinking 6/8, it's a 2 count low A and then a 1 count C. So if that makes sense to you, that whole sort of second part where it's based on A. And you'll probably notice, if you're paying really close attention, if you've got your chain in your hand and you're trying to look at real closely what I'm doing, I'm kind of changing up the gracing as I do it. That's because, like I said at the top, this is kind of free expression. You can kind of do what you like. You know, playing it the same way every time matters the most in a band context. Playing it how you want to on the day is the name of the game when you're playing solo. So already they're somewhat the same, but big differences in terms of how that melody gets driven by the rhythm that's being chosen. So then next we move on to the third part of this quick time, where it's based around D. We go up to a D throw for this. So coming off of the last two measures, so now we've returned to a C. And again, to break up the rhythm, this measure uses a grip to break that up. So starting from the D throw, and then we get right back into where we started. And that's the broad strokes of the whole thing. So you can, hopefully you can learn a little bit from this and kind of listen to the two different bands playing these and put together a version of this tune that you like all your own. I will go ahead and play, since I have my own music written out here, I'll go ahead and play the whole version of this Scots Dragoons one. And then in closing, I'll play the whole Western Australia one. So here we go. Thank you for watching. I will close on these two performances. Oh, no, I won't. I have one more thing to say. One thing that you may wish to do as you get more comfortable with this is fit in a few different embellishments and maybe even some bends. So a couple places where you can do that. So the quick time for this sort of Western Australia version, I often do with doublings. So instead of just you can fit in doublings kind of at the start of the 680 bits. So that sort of thing. The other thing is bending notes. So you have an opportunity to bend B to C in a few places. It's all in the sort of the intro. I'll do it with the Scots Dragoon version, but it's available in both pieces. So it's like this. So if that bend with that finger is something that you are comfortable doing or would like to practice, this is a good place to put that in. Okay, now to the performances. So now I will play the parts that I have written down for the the Royal Scots Dragoon sort of variation of this tune. It's just going to be parts. I'm going to play the intro a couple times and the QuickTime part once. Is not a composed tune. That's a fun exercise for you, or if you know someone that likes to do music arrangement, maybe buddy up with them. This is just the loose parts. Like I said, for me at least, the point of what I'm trying to get done with this video, the point of this exercise is to kind of help you understand that in ways that I didn't when I first tried to learn this, and other tunes in general, is that this stuff is malleable. You can kind of do with it what you wish. So, that being said, I will dive right into it. I don't play this version as much as I play the other version, so I cannot promise a perfect take, but I'm going to give it a good shot. So, here we go. Few little mistakes there, but hopefully you can hear how that rhythm breaks up with those different embellishments stuck in the middle. Okay, next on to the Western Australia version. This is going to be a bit longer because as I've written it down, the bridge fits right in the middle, and the intro is definitely longer. So as before, when I kind of went through the tutorial version, there's a lot of long notes. That's because they play this with a orchestral accompaniment and drums, so there's a lot going on during these sort of whole notes. Oh, it's almost two whole notes together, tied together in a few places, but bear with me, and here we go. Alright, that's it. I'm done. Thank you for watching all that. I hope that it adds to your enjoyment of this instrument and to bring a great song like the Gael into your repertoire. If you work on this and practice it and end up doing a recording yourself, drop me a message or add it in the comments or anything like that. And that's it. Have a great day.